Hey guys, welcome to Celia's Playlists. Today I am here with Anthony Church, a hip hop and R&B producer from Ohio. How's it going, Anthony?
Hey Celia, it's going great and happy to be here and thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm excited to talk to you today because I know that we're going to have some like really fun things that we get into because I really am interested in hearing like what you do as a hip hop and R&B producer. So, can you tell us a little bit about you and your background?
Yeah. So I got started in music in 2016, the summer of 2016. So like right after I graduated high school, pretty much got started with my friend who's a rapper. His name is Jay Trey. And we pretty much agreed that I would produce for him and he would be the rapper. So I've been working with him really since the beginning. That's kind of how I got started. And then from there, around like 2018, 2019, started working with different independent artists just by sending emails, DMs on Instagram, connecting with different people. And at this point, I've worked with probably over 30 different independent artists from all over the world, which is cool. I also do a music podcast called the Proven Knowledge Podcast, which is pretty cool. So I've met a lot of people through there as well. Yeah, so that's pretty much like in a nutshell what I do. And yeah, just, letting the journey kind of take me where it will, I think. So.
I feel that. I'm in a similar boat where like I got into music through video and I've met so many people through doing videos, doing photos, doing interviews, doing different things and playlisting. So like it's not a linear path. Like some people think you get into music and then you're just like, "Yep, I am the music guy." So like it's really cool to hear that like you've been able to work with someone for X amount of time because you said 2016, it's 2024. That's what, 8 years?
Yeah, 8 years last month actually. So
Oh wow. So it's cool to hear that you've been on someone's journey for that long, but it's also awesome to hear that you've been able to branch out and work with like so many different kinds of artists. Are they primarily rappers or have they been kind of across the board?
yeah, so when I started out, I was mostly focusing on hip hop production and working with different MCs, and I still do that to this day. But I'd say in the last couple of years, I've really focused more on R&B, working with singer songwriters, and even like my beat stars that I have where I used to sell beats. I primarily post like R&B style production up there now. And I've gotten more into melodic stuff myself, like the self-release stuff as well. So I'd say that's kind of shifted, but I'm always like I grew up hip hop head, so I'm always open to working with rappers. It kind of just depends on like the person and what they want to do, and if I feel I can give them the right type of sound, or if I'm a good fit for the project, whatever we're working on. But yeah, a lot more R&B in the last couple of years, which has been super exciting, and I've learned a lot about that genre that I didn't really know before. Because I think like growing up, I really wasn't into R&B that much, and I really didn't get into it until I got out of high school and just started. When I started producing, I just started studying different genres, and I gravitated towards that one, especially since like R&B nowadays, it really infuses a lot of other genres too. It's not as traditional as it was in the '90s, at least not all
Mm-hmm.
of it. And I just love working with singers a lot. So yeah, I think that's where it's at this point in time.
I think that's really cool because like I like that it's kind of how do I word this? It's kind of like you found a niche within like an area of music where I also did the same thing. But I did that on like obviously the visual side. Like I am very good with like singer-songwriters. I'm very good with like pop punk. I'm really good with like that area because like I'm a grown-up emo kid. So like though I listen to everything, like
Yeah.
there's a little secret part of my heart that really likes like dark pop and like anything that reminisces like Paramore or Green Day or
Mm.
Fall Out Boy. I'm just like, yes, I love it. Let's go. Amazing. So I want to ask you like a couple of questions about like working with both rappers and R&B, but I will split those up so that you're not trying to chase. So my question to you is when you're working with a rap client, what is like, the process of that because rap and R&B are slightly different. Like singing versus like I don't know how to better say it than like melodic delivery like that you have to do for rap has a different approach. So, as a producer, how do you move forward with those types of clients?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is the style of production, because I've always felt with hip hop, you're looking for more like hard hitting drums or something that really stands out. And you can go like more of a fast pace as well. Even if it's like boom bap, like 90s style, you're looking to just kind of have it hit harder, but also keep it more simplified as well. I think both genres, I really try to simplify it as much as possible, but I feel like there's more intricacy to the singing side for like the R&B side, because you want to add more melodies in there and you want to kind of have things sit in the right way. And you want to give the vocalist enough space to do their thing too. And I think with a lot of singers, they like to use a lot of effects on their voices, like reverb and things like that. Rappers, usually, it's kind of just like you might add some effects here and there, but they're just going to give like their raw take as the normal final version. So you don't really have to worry about like, overcrowding things too much. But I think just for me, it's really just, it doesn't really matter if it's a singer or a rapper. I have to feel like it's a good relationship that we have to be able to work together in the first place. So I think it's kind of a similar approach to both, but yeah, I think it's more of the production style that ends up, being the factor of how's it going to be different. You know what I mean? And just taking each like person with a case by case basis of what do they want to accomplish, and how can I get them there. And that's really what it's been. I just continue to learn each, time I work with someone new, and hopefully, I teach them something, they teach me something as well. So yeah, I think that's really where it is at this point, and I'm excited to see where it goes moving forward with new individuals I get to work with.
I love that because that's the same way that I am with video. Because, like, when you're working with the same person more than once, you already have an idea of like what they want, who they are, and like, where they want to go. But when you're working with a new person, you have to figure out, okay, like, do our styles align? Do you want to do something that's within the capabilities of what I can do? Can you give me an idea of like what I always say is like what's in your head? Tell me what's in your head and like give me an example, like find a picture reference. So like when you have someone come to you, what types of things do you ask them to kind of gain the scope of like what that song would be?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing, even before we start working, is to have the conversation like what you just talked about. I actually set up phone calls usually with the client and just, so let's talk about life a little bit. Like, where are you at in life? Like, what are you trying to say? And like, if they come to me and say they want to work on like an EP, and it's like a concept about maybe their relationship or something, or like an ex relationship that didn't go so well or something like that, it's like it's good to have that conversation about it first, so I know a little bit more of the backstory. And then it's like, okay, well, what type of sounds do we want to dive into to be able to give you the sound bed to get these emotions out there? So it's really just taking it from that very beginning step. And if I feel like we vibe very well together and we kind of just get one another, it's like it's going to be a lot easier to do that. So from there, I'm just taking like what they tell me, and I'm trying to figure out, how do I relay that in just a musical way without using any words, because I can't use the words myself. I'm trying to give them that platform to be able to do that on. So from there, it's just like taking, making a lot of different ideas. I usually just sit down and make ideas from scratch, and then just kind of send things to them, ideas I feel might like that might fit what they're going for. And I do that with every artist too. I make like folders in my computer, and I'll just load them up with different ideas and just email or text them over, and just see what it is. And I even had that this morning. I'm working with an artist. I did his album. He's an R&B artist from New York who goes by the name of Penn, and he's working on another EP. And he hit me up a few days ago, and he's like, "We only need 3 more tracks to get this EP done." So I sent him 3 beats this morning that I felt like they would fit the vibe, and he's like, "Man, you nailed it right on the head. Like these are the ones I was looking for." He's like, "I just got to write to them, and then we'll be good to go." And I think the more I've done that, the more I've gotten used to being able to like get it right the first time and not have to just keep sending different songs back and forth. And that's just with repetition and being able to practice it and keep doing it. So I think that answered your question. I hope it's kind of just like, being able to figure out where they are in their life, and then how does that relate to what we're going to do with the music side of things.
I function in the same way because there's a clip online of me turning around to one of the artists that I was working with and saying, "All right, are you ready to do therapy today?" And then like, what tell me what was going through your head when you like wrote this song. Tell me what's going through your head, like what influences, like where were you? Because like like you said, we're capturing emotions. It's
Yeah.
not even about like, anyone could take a picture, anyone could take a video, anyone could record an audio bite. But if you are trying to invoke emotions, that's a whole other ballgame. I don't know if you know this, but the playlists that I make are like made in the fashion of like somatic healing playlists. So they hit a different place in the body, and as you know, when you're mixing and mastering, like you can feel where things hit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that's an important piece of the puzzle that a lot of people don't take into consideration. And that's why like communication at the top of a project is so important, because if they are having us kind of come in as a creator, because that's what they need. They need someone to help them create the thing. We need to know what the fuck we're doing.
Yeah.
So it's cool to hear that like you've adopted a similar mindset on things than I have. How does that kind of like move forward with the sessions that you do? Do you do sessions in person, or is it like something that you do remote and then they send you like takes?
Yeah. So since I'm in kind of a small town with not a lot of artists,
Mm-hmm.
and the majority of my clients live elsewhere, it's mostly remote work.
Cool.
I've done sessions through like Zoom and FaceTime and things like that and kicked ideas that way. A lot of the times it's just email though. It's just like sending the ideas back and forth, and then we just do what we can with the tools we have. And that obviously makes things take a little longer, which is okay. But that's really how I've done it since the beginning, and just kind of got used to doing things like that, sending files back and forth and just keeping that line of communication open. I like to have multiple lines of communication open too with everybody, like email, text, DMs, all those things, so that if we need to get in touch with one another, it's a lot easier than just if we only have one. It's going to be hard sometimes to talk every single day or every week and move the project forward. I just kind of like to be time efficient, do my part. And then every artist obviously has their own like time schedule and their own way of doing things. I mean, certain projects could take a few years. I'm actually doing a collaboration right now with another Ohio MC. We've been working on this album for like a couple years. But that's just because of the time schedules between the two of us. We're still actively working on it. It's just taking a lot longer than some of the other stuff I've done, where it's like we could knock out a whole project in like 2 months and have it
Mm-hmm.
out and do the marketing for it and all that stuff. So it's just like I said earlier about every person has their own tendencies and their own goals, what they want to do. So I just got to do my part and trust that it's going to work out in the end. But for the most part, it's just been remote work and doing what I can with where I'm based. And that's really how I built my whole music brand and all that stuff, is just through social media and online. And it's the beauty of being able to do that. But people 30 years ago couldn't probably imagine where we are now. Being able to work with all these different people from around the world. So you got to look at it as a blessing too. And I'm definitely blessed to be able to do it. So
I love that. Like, I'm also someone that frequents the internet, as you know, a
yeah,
little bit. But
yeah, gotcha.
uh like where do you find these people? Because I know that we connected via threads.
Mm,
I feel like there's been a lot of there's a lot of different ways that people can use the internet to actually do remote work and like find remote clients. Are you someone that does it mostly on social media, or do you go on sites like Upworks or like something like that to like forward move forward with
yeah.
finding clients, or do they find you?
Yeah. Really, so I'd say like 3 or 4 years in is when I started to actually put myself out there, because I spent the first few years really just like working on music and trying to get better. And when I felt like I was in a place where I could do that, I really started on Instagram, and that's really where my main following is still to this day. And I would just go through and look at like mutual followers, see what artists they were following, and like listen to their music, see if I could like potentially work with them, and just start reaching out to them. And I kind of do a version of that to this day. Like I'll go look for different independent artists and see if I can connect with them, and just either send a DM or an email and see where it goes. So Instagram's always been a big one. And then just as the years go on, just expanding my reach to different places. And I think the more I've been able to post and build the brand, I've had more people reach out to me, or they find me through BeatStars. I do have Upwork as well, like you just mentioned. I've had people, give me jobs through that, all kinds of different things, and just continuing to expand the digital footprint. I think that gives you a good way of being able to do that. I've been expanding my YouTube this past year, which has been super cool, and just trying to do different content for different platforms too. But when I'm the one searching for artists, I'd say Instagram is still like the primary place where I go that I found a lot of success on. So I think it's just like, what works for you, who are you looking to work with, and then you just go from there. And yeah, I've been blessed to be able to find a lot of cool people. And yeah, like I said, the internet's like a blessing, so we gotta look at it like that and just use it for good. Because I know a lot of people, like, they either focus on only the bad stuff or they just don't know how to use these platforms for good.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're able to do it, it's really awesome. So
I love that, and I agree because some of my best clients are people that I met through the internet. Like, as in, like, they found my page or I found their page, and then we were following each other for X amount of time. And then when they were ready to make that step and do something that was like beyond the capabilities of what they can do with their phone, I was the one that got the phone call.
yeah,
So, like, I think that that's honestly one of the most aligned ways to find clients, because throughout like my entire playlisting project, and like even with the people that are on this podcast, they're people that saw my post on Threads. So the algorithm was trying to match people to my post, or I like that resonate with the types of things that I resonate with, because it's connected to Instagram. As you said, Instagram, we've lived in Instagram for like a hot second.
mm,
Like that Instagram knows like a little bit too much about us at this point. That's why their algorithm puts certain things onto our profile, like as in like the news feed. So, if you are coming up as something that is going to relate with another person, it's going to kind of have that push pull of like there's something here, there's something in common, there's something to build off of. Whereas if it's like someone off the street, like they're just like, I just need a video, I just need a photo, and that's like not the client that I am looking for. I don't know if you've run into like a similar thing where someone like finds out that like you're an audio engineer or a producer, and they're just like, I need a song. And like that I don't know. I have a better time with the people that I have some sort of foundational commonality with, than people that just they don't really know what they want.
yeah.
Have you run into that?
Yeah, 100%. And it's just you always I feel like you always have people reaching out to you like with the let's work DMs with the fire emoji and things like that. And there's no like personality there. It's like I'm never gonna work with this person ever because what is that? Like obviously not. But I think I like what you just said because it's really about working with the right people. Because like especially even if people are always offering you money, sometimes it might not be a good match. So it's like is it really worth being able to go through hell just to get a paycheck? And sometimes you got to ask yourself, like, I don't think it's worth it. You know what I mean? And then there's obviously a lot of people that just want free stuff, which I think everybody can relate to. But I think the more that I've gone on, it's just like I want to work with the people, like you said, that align with what I align with. And we're trying to do a similar thing. And it's going to be mutually beneficial for both of us to work together. So I think when you start out, you're really desperate to just get clients or just be able to work with anybody. And so you're like, you want to jump at every opportunity. But then the more you go, you're like, that's probably going to kill me, like of stress or just like being tired of just dealing with the bullshit. So you're like, I just got to narrow it down to working with the right people. But when you build your clientele and you get more connections, it becomes easier to do that. So I've definitely found that in the last couple of years that, yeah, I just want to keep sticking with working with the right people and the people that want to work with me and I want to work with them. Um, so yeah, I definitely agree with all of that.
I feel like it's an understated part of the process. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because everyone's just like, I need a producer. And like whether it's an audio producer or a video producer, they're like, I need a producer. But what does that actually mean? I feel like people don't have like the foundational knowledge at the beginning that they need to make these types of choices and make the correct choices. And that's why people end up jumping around to different producers, different places, because they need to learn that for themselves. Like they need to go to the producer that's like the quote unquote like the cheap option, and then be like, well, that wasn't really the experience that I want. And then they go to the next person and they're like, well, that's not really the experience I want either. And then like eventually, like by the time, at least in my case, by the time they get to me and I'm sitting down with them and I'm like, all right, let's drink pretend this is coffee. So let's get coffee and let's talk a little bit about like what you have like in your head for like what you actually want this to be. Like
Yeah.
what do you want? Do you want it to be something that's like just a music video? Do you want to do a performance video? Do you want to build a campaign around it? Like where are you even at? Like what's going on? And like it just it's all about having someone that can see your vision.
Mhm. And I
That's
feel
the hardest
like,
thing.
yeah, and I feel like the more specific the person is with their vision, it's going to be easier for the other person to understand it as well. And that's where that conversation comes into play. Why it's so important. It's because you got to get on the same page, or even see if you're able to get on the same page, and then from there, it's going to work if you are. So,
Yeah. I don't know if you've been in this situation, but I've actually had to fire clients before. Have
see,
you had to run into that?
well, see, it's just I'm just doing pretty much all on my own. So have I had to cut people off? Not really. I've had some bad experiences, but we
Mm-hmm.
never really started working together, which is good. I kind of just saw it from the beginning and was like, this isn't going to work out,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which is good. And I'm happy to say that I haven't had many horror stories or bad experiences, which is nice. So, but I definitely think that's important too, and being able to recognize if you need to do that for your own sanity, which is super important. It's like what I said about, do you want to just have a check just to do it, or do you want to be able to work with the people that are right for you? So
I feel that. I'll give you my 2 second firing a client story. I had a client that was a national company, not a national non for profit, and I was gonna do like a live stream job for them, and I've done it every year. But suddenly they want to cut the budget in half, and suddenly like they need more audio equipment because they want to do more microphones, and suddenly they need all of these other things, and like as you know, like obviously you're doing studio setups, but like to show up with about like $30,000 worth of gear with microphones and lights and video and this and that, and also I was gonna play audio for the room. I was gonna be the DJ for the room. I was gonna do everything. Um, they wanted to do that for half the budget in the middle of Times Square, and I would have had to load everything in like 3 seconds because it was a whole problem, and
mm,
they wouldn't sign the contract until like the day before. So I'm like, there is no contract. I am not coming.
yeah, at
Like,
that point they force you.
unfortunately,
Yeah, you
exactly.
can't do that. So
So like it's kind of like one of those things where like if you're seeing the warning signs, that's kind of where you make that call, and you have to learn how to make that call early enough. So
yeah.
I'm glad to hear that you've been able to communicate with whomever it was and be like, I don't think that this is the right fit, because at least in my career, that's not something that I was comfortable with until like more recently, because you feel like you need to take the things because it's going to lead to something else, or you need the money, or you need to do the job. And as a creative, it's not always good for your mental health to take the things that you shouldn't be taking, because you probably have had a couple of weird out there horror story people that you're like, yes, we did the thing and we will not be doing more things, like I have. But how have you handled that conversation with them to say like, thank you but no thank you?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of just depends on like the nature of the situation. Like I said, if someone sends me a DM with no context and just says let's work or let's do whatever, I'm probably not even going to respond to it because it's not really worth my time, because you didn't put in the effort to reach out to me in the right way, and you didn't have respect enough for me to like actually even reply to you. So that's just kind of how that would go. But if they want something very specific and I feel like I can't give it to them, what I'm gonna do most likely is try to refer them to someone that can. I like to always do that, especially for the people that I'm already connected with. If I feel like I could give someone else an opportunity to work with this person, and I see potential, and I'm like, okay, I like what this person's idea is, but I don't feel like I'm the one to carry it out. I'll refer them and say, hey, if you hit up this person, I think they could help you out a lot, and just tell them that I sent you, and let me know how it goes. And that's actually worked out a lot in different instances. Even as a podcaster, that's worked out for me, being able to just refer people and give people opportunities, which I always like doing. So if I feel good about the situation, that's what I like to do. I don't like to just say no and then just move on. Just kind of like to help out where I can, but yeah, I mean, just knowing that and being able to understand that not every opportunity is for me, and just kind of understand that moving forward is the big thing. And like I said, just being able to have the 8 years of experience, I think that's where that comes from. Because early on, it's not easy to do. It's not easy to recognize, but it's not easy to say no. But it also comes with just being comfortable with myself and who I am, and what I want to present to the world too. So I think it's a little bit of all of that, but yeah.
Awesome. So, we're kind of coming towards the end of this. I said that we were going to do like 20 minutes, but I always say that and then I end up lying. So Anthony, I asked this question to everyone. If someone is going to start their music journey now, and you could take this however you want, what would be your advice to them?
Definitely have patience. I think the biggest thing you could do at every step of the journey is just continue to be patient, because you always want to be on to the next thing, or you have a goal in mind and you just want to be at the goal. But I think the more you take your time and just kind of hone in on your craft and work at your craft every single day, you're going to get there eventually. I think it's just people are always in a rush to get what they want. And then you have obviously social media being a big factor in people wanting instant gratification. But it's like that's not how real life works. You got to really put the work in no matter what. And if you love it, you'll keep going. But I think patience is just something you always got to learn. And, there's a lot of other things I could say too, but I think that's the biggest thing for me in my journey that I had to learn and always have to keep reminding myself of too. Is just, I want to be where I'm trying to go, but it's not going to happen today. But I got to lay the groundwork to be able to get there. So that's really what patience is for me and why I think it's so important.
I love that. I We're on the same wavelength. So, Anthony, can you tell everyone where they can follow you and give us a little pitch on your podcast, because maybe people can go over there and learn some very valuable things there as well.
Yeah. So primarily I'm on Instagram, which is at Anthony underscore church 24. I host a show called the Proven Knowledge Podcast, which is on like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. You want to hear it. And if you want to be on the show, if you're an artist as well, just reach out to me, send me an email. All like my info will be in the bio of my Instagram and all that stuff. And I'm always looking for guests. So I'd love to have people on. I'm on streaming, Anthony Church, all my music, all that stuff. Got a new album coming out called Unknown Advantage, which I'm excited about. And yeah, just putting out a lot more content in the coming months and beyond. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, Anthony. I think that we got into some really cool topics, and like I feel like whoever is going to listen through this is really going to learn a lot about interpersonal relationship between like producers and like creating like with them. So thank you for your knowledge, and thank you for being a part of this.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I got to say again to you, thank you for allowing me on the platform and putting my song with Tommy G Champion in the playlist as well, which we appreciate that. And just keep doing what you're doing for artists, because I love it. I love the playlist. I love this platform. And thank you again. So
Thank you, thank you. I'm just going to keep saying thank you. But for you guys at home, make sure you're following Anthony, and I will see you guys for the next episode. Bye guys.